Hi, welcome to Resilience Brilliance. I'm Jena Taylor. I'm a resilience strategist and founder of Resilience Brilliance podcast and programs. My show was born out of my own story of survival. After a traumatic brain injury, I couldn't walk, talk, or even remember. I had to start from scratch. Within months, I fought my way back to it, first to independence, then writing for IBM Watson Health, and eventually rebuilding a six-figure career. My mantra became reclaim my life, and it is the heartbeat of everything I do. Resilience Brilliance is for anyone struggling with adversity, burnout, or the weight of life's challenges, especially women and leaders juggling what's called the sandwich generation, caring for both aging parents and adult children. The show delivers inspiring stories, practical tools, and expert insights so you can overcome, rebuild, and reclaim your own life with heart, humility, and humor. And today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Jodi Suson. After being misdiagnosed for nearly 2 decades and disabled for four years, Jody learned about our food and water supply and how it impacted her brain and emotional health. She was able to reverse 54, that's 54 chronic conditions, physical, emotional, and spiritual, using plant and energy-based healing. She is leading humanity away from poisonous pills and produce to plants and prayers and reframing mental health for the world so they can release the labels and focus on real-life, chemical-free solutions. So welcome to the show, Jody.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. We have this connection between the two of us that we consciously weren't aware of until just maybe a half an hour ago.
Right. And it's interesting. So most everything happens, in the etheric or biofield, meaning, the Christ consciousness, right? So we naturally will gravitate to those who are like-minded and who we can serve and be served by for highest good, right? Because it's the energy.
Yeah, so true. And so many people don't really give energy enough kudos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And when the universe awakens, right? Fully awakens, um, they will understand that they have focused on the wrong things, right? Because when you focus, look, and I've done it. So I'm not just telling your listeners this from a place of judgment. It's a place of I've done that. Maybe you want to try this because it
Learning
doesn't
from
work
the
so
school
well.
of hard knocks, right? Take it from me. Exactly. Exactly. Well, I'm going to give you the mic, and why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how you got to be where you are today, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. So interestingly enough, I was an equestrian, right? And I was at the stable and I was taking care of my horse, Jarful. And Jarful had anxiety, like his younger sister, right? And he dug a hole in the front of the stall. And I was wearing my cowboy boots. And when I went to leave the stall, my cowboy boot got stuck and I went face forward down on the concrete and hit the prefrontal cortex. And anybody who understands brain health, and I'm going to assume that they don't here, when you hit the front of your brain, the brain jiggles back and forth against the skull and hits the back of the brain, which is your what? Well, it's your basal ganglia, anxiety, and also your occipital lobe. And so occipital lobe, for those who don't know, that's your eyesight. And so I, in the 3rd grade, can't write complete sentences and I'm not reading very well. And I come from a family of very, very intelligent family members. My mother skipped 3 grades. My dad was kicked out at the age of 12 from high school and was a multimillionaire by the time he was 20. Okay.
Oh,
So it was like,
wow.
right. It was that wow factor. That's how smart my parents are.
Yeah, and
And
so imagine, with you having this reading problem, you didn't feel like you fit in with your family.
not even kind of. Not even kind of. And my siblings were all straight A's. right? And very, very intelligent. And most of them were able to, not all of them, regulate their emotions. And I was not. And I was having tantrums and so my girlfriend, Renee, taught me how to read in the 3rd grade, like where the commas go, where the semicolons go. But I have to tell you, it still didn't anchor in until I want to say in my 30s, because I had to get lessons again because I had no memory, almost no memory whatsoever. And so I was having a struggle anchoring in new patterns. So I had this old pattern, it's stuck. The neurotransmitters aren't wired and firing together. And so you can't retain things. Well, like you might say, oh, poor Jody. No, 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 no. Because that's what helped me to become an out of the box thinker because I had to work harder than other people. And so I became very creative in figuring out how do I navigate this situation in a way that's efficient? And if you've ever studied the profile, like DISC, you ever heard of DISC? Yeah, I'm a high D, which means you're that CEO type that wants to get to things fast. So I had to find ways to do things quick and differently. And not only did I apply it to my mental life and my physical life, I also applied it to my spiritual life, and I have agreements with my spiritual guides about when we do things fast. So, so the gift wrapped in strange wrapping paper was that I found ways to navigate the universe that allows me to rise up a little quicker, right? But I had to put a lot of work in on the forefront to get there. So I'll go to the next situation, which was in the 80s and 90s, in the 80s and 90s, there was a food supply. The food supply was filled with genetically modified organisms.
Hmm.
And GMOs are not something that the body recognizes. Okay. And why? The body doesn't recognize it because it's a synthetic. And when you consume a synthetic, it gets stored in your fat cells. Okay. And your brain, oops, is 70% fat. Do you see where we're going here?
Hmm.
Okay. And so I was having, again, emotional regulation issues. I'm having a little bit of a weight gain issue in the 80s and 90s, nothing massive.
And what age are you at this point?
Great question. 1981, I'm 17 and I'm in high school. So I'm 17 and
Okay.
a half years old.
Okay. So you've
Right.
been living with this undiagnosed brain injury 7 years.
Right. And how I got into a university with a C average is beyond me.
Good for you, though.
Right. And then and I wanna explain something there, and I'm not gonna go into all the details, but what I'm gonna say is, in college, I had health issues at both colleges, right? Because I went to a couple different colleges, and, I'm not looking I don't even know to look at my brain, and so we're looking at all these different things, and we're ending up at these dead ends because it doesn't work, and so by the time I was 50. So now we're really fast forwarding, right?
Hmm.
Um, let me back up. I was 30 and I got misdiagnosed and I was put on 50 drugs. Okay. Now I was put on 8 drugs just to get the party started. And then they put me on 10 clinical trials. And from those 10 clinical trials, they never took me off any of the drugs. It was 2013. I'm now on 50 drugs all at the same time. And it's not a red flag for anybody.
Wow, that's terrible. That's a lot of medication going into your system.
Right.
Medication.
Yeah. 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 Can we just call it what it is?
Poison.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because that's what I refer to it in my book. It's not
Yeah.
medicine, people, it's poison.
Right.
And to think anything different at this point, especially with all the things that are coming out, the CDC is finally acknowledging what they're doing because they're being forced to. by the current administration. And I'm not here to talk politics. I never talk politics, but the fact is they're being forced to tell the truth, right? And here's the thing. So I go on disability after both parents died 18 months apart. And
What was your functioning level? So what prompted
thank
you
you. You
to
read my
be on
mind.
disability?
Well, I'm going to show you something, okay? And all your listeners. Here's a glass of water, right? The glass I had was half this size in height, and it was filled with this same exact amount of water. I can't get it to my mouth, okay? I have to take it like this, okay? And gently get it to my mouth because I don't have enough strength. None. So, talk about functionality. I can't move. Okay, I have periodic paralysis. My body's literally shutting down. Yes, I have this diagnosis, misdiagnosis of bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Neither one of those things were true. And I'm here to tell
Goodness.
your listeners that there is no such thing. They are made up labels that give other organizations, because I don't want to use their name, the right to bill you and pay your doctor and get you connected to their revenue stream, which is a little white pill. Okay. And that's how this is. Now, let's talk about what's really going on. We live in a universe that's filled with neurotoxins. Okay. Neurotoxins is just what it sounds like. It impairs your nervous system. It impairs the brain's ability to send the neurotransmitters to your organs, your tissues, and your cells. Look, I never studied science. I wasn't good at science. I wasn't good at math, and I became an expert.
Yeah.
Starting at age 50, I'm 62. Okay. So let me just say, you can do anything you put your mind to at any age. Any age. I don't care what. I don't care if you're 92. Get it started. Okay.
So
Especially if
how
you're
long were you on disability?
4 years.
Okay. All right. What was the crucible moment you knew something had to change?
Thank you.
And how did you make that change? Those are my two questions for you that they're interwoven together.
Well, perfect. When I'm sitting in my kitchen with that glass of water, and my doctor's trying to tell me that I've got bipolar disorder and schizophrenia and I can't move. And I said to him, Doctor, fill in the blank, right? I know you said that I have these conditions, and I know that you said that bipolar disorder and schizophrenia comes with having physical pain. It's actually, we'll talk about that. But this, I should be able to get a glass of water to my mouth. And I said, so if you can't help me, send me to someone who can. And so I sent that to him in a letter, right? And I sent it to him as a voicemail. And it's in my book, by the way, that letter. So, hmm. So then next part was prayer. And I mentioned that both my mom and dad passed. What I didn't mention to you was that I was born Jewish, and at this time, I was studying for my bat mitzvah to turn 53. So I'm like, okay, let's start the next 3 years. I really want to be connected to God. God feels right to me. And by the way, spoiler alert for those watching, I am an ordained minister. That does not discount my Judaism, because it was Judaism that taught me to be a critical thinker. But for me, becoming a Christ follower was filled with love. And that's what I needed for me and my life. You need to find out what's good for you in your life. So there's no judgment. Okay. So you asked the question, how did I pivot? So first is the communication to the doctor. The second was a communication to God. And so I'm on my couch. I had periodic paralysis. I cannot move. And so it would be that if I eat something, I go into periodic paralysis and I'm just stuck. Well, it turned out for me, periodic paralysis is actually brown rice syrup. That was yeah, because it's chock full of sugar, right? So the body's shutting down. Okay. So I'm on that couch and I'm praying, and my mom comes in. And this is also when I'm learning that I'm really an intuitive. Okay. That my energy knows no bounds. Now I want you to understand something. I'm still on 50 drugs. Okay. And I want you to know that if you are this person and you're on 50 drugs or even 12 drugs or 10 drugs, it doesn't matter. You can still hear God. You have the power. Okay. They can do anything they want. But if you decide to just pause for a minute and really pray and ask for guidance, you can hear it. So I heard it. And I recognize my mom's energy because I am a frequency expert. Like I can hear and I recognize frequencies and I know which ones to invite and I know which ones to release. Took a while, but I got there. And so my mom comes in, but she has a friend with her. I'm like, I don't recognize the frequency, but it's a good frequency.
Okay, that's good.
It was Jesus.
Wow, that's powerful.
It was Jesus. And so they're telling me to call my mom's neurologist. We'll just call him Dr. Andrew. Okay. And I said, but why? I said, I have a mental health problem. Now I'm not into I don't know that a neurologist deals with the brain. No, nothing. So if I can come from nothing, so can you. And so I called the doctor's office and they asked me if I have a referral. And I said, I do, not the kind you're looking for. So I did not get in. The second
Because
time I called 30 days later, my mom and Jesus. And I still, by the way, I don't know that it's Jesus. Okay. I'm just telling you, she has a friend with her, and I have no idea that that's Jesus. I just know it's a cool guy. He seems good. Maybe it's a spiritual guide. Who knows? Right. And so they come in again. They say, call the doctor's office. I'm like, but they're not going to see me. And so I called the doctor's office and I explained that in that 30 days, I had seen a sleep specialist and they wanted to put me on more drugs, and I'm already on 50 drugs. And I don't really think this is the path I want to take. And they said, I get it. Come on in. Like they're not looking for the referral. They just let me in.
okay.
So I get into the doctor's office and I see Dr. Andrew, who is my mother's neurologist. And he says to me, Jody, what brings you here? And I looked him straight in the eye. And now he was my mom's doctor. He knows that she's dead. And I said, my mother sent me. And he looks at me and he goes, talk to me. And he was the first doctor to listen to me. He knew. He knew in his heart that I wasn't crazy and that something was going on. And he did every test. And what he said was, and it wasn't just him, right? He had a team doing tests on me. He goes, pain, which you've been in for, whatever, 20 years, shrinks the brain. And that's why you cannot process information. He said, you don't have bipolar disorder and you don't have schizophrenia. I did have a lot of anxiety, but think about what I went through for the last
Right.
20 years.
Right.
Okay. We'll go with that. And he introduced me, and I am going to use her name because she's on my book, Dr. Michelle Kukla from Palatine, Illinois. She is this lady right here. And she introduced me to the most important thing, real food, because
It
everything
was
else.
and this was a neurologist.
Well, the neurologist talked about real food, but the neurologist referred me to the psychologist, and the
Okay.
psychologist, Dr. Michelle Kukla, introduced me to the concept of real food.
Okay. Got it.
And real food does not come necessarily from grocery store.
So when you saw the neurologist, I'm always fascinated by the brain. What was your reaction when they told you you had an undiagnosed brain injury?
Well, no. So actually what we revealed is that I had a torn rotator cuff. So what I didn't tell you was that, and I apologize because there's so much information to capture. I fell down on the ice at work when I was working in Iowa. and I tore both rotator cuffs. And so I'm like, but my shoulder hurts, right? And nobody wants to do any x-ray, any diagnostics, not a thing. And so he did all of it. And he's like, you got a 3-centimeter tear here, a 1-centimeter tear here. And so, and I never had surgery. I ended up using, honestly, and you should find your own way or see me or something, or find somebody who can help you. This is not a prescription, but I used frankincense essential oil blended with coconut oil on my rotator cuff every single day. And it just healed.
The body heals itself.
And there's more to that. I mean, I changed my lifestyle. I started filtering my water, which is probably the most important change you can ever make.
When you say you filtered your water, tell me a little bit more about that.
Great. So I filtered my tap and my shower. And why? There's 304 contaminants in Georgia, where I'm at. In Illinois, I believe it's even more. Arizona, actually, where you're at, has the worst water, I
Yeah.
believe, in the United States.
Yeah, I have a shower filter. And
Okay.
I use a zero filter for my water.
Understanding both sides of the equation. I've never liked zero water filters because it takes out everything, including the minerals, which are really important for your brain health. But here's the workaround with that. You take a little bit of Celtic salt or pink Himalayan salt and make sure you get the quality kind underneath the tongue. And now you've got your minerals. Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, I was so hard bent on having minerals. I may have a different opinion, so you just need to reach out to me because things are changing.
Right.
The one company that I work with several companies, 3 or 4 of them. The one that's 10 minutes from my house, I've known about them for 10 years. They've been in business for 35 years. They do not take fluoride out of the water when they do the shower head. But, tomorrow we may not be adding fluoride to the water in Georgia. I won't advocate for one over the other at this point.
Sure. Before we go, I want to take a quick break. This is another commonality that you don't know, and I just found out while we were just talking. I grew up in Iowa. Yeah. Where were you working in Iowa?
So I was working for a mega regional bank, which I would like to not name.
Sure.
Okay.
Can
And
kind
it
of
was
figure which out.
in Des Moines. And there's
Okay.
only one. And they actually fired me when they found out that I had that diagnosis of bipolar and schizophrenia.
Well, that's terrible.
But the truth is, there is no diagnosis like that. So here's the science. Number one, if you're eating processed foods and they have red food dye in it, that processed food is actually made with the cochineal bug, which is a parasite. Cochineal bug is actually in Arizona, in New
Great.
Mexico. Okay. So that's number one. Parasites will mimic mental health disorders. Number two, if you are eating conventional foods, which I was, and I was also eating that cochineal bug,
Yummy.
promote eating nutrient dense food. Because if you're eating conventional food sprayed with Roundup, the active ingredient in Roundup is glyphosate. Glyphosate was used to decalcify pipes in World War II. They took that, they sprayed it all over our food. So if it's decalcifying pipes back in World War II, it is now decalcifying your body.
Your body. Yeah. That sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Uh-huh. So now that's the second reason why you'll present with a mental health condition. The easy button to that is what I just told you a moment ago, is you take a bit of Celtic sea salt or pure Himalayan sea salt under the tongue, drink filtered water. Now you're getting all but one of your minerals for the day. I recommend that you alternate between Celtic and Himalayan because one doesn't have one mineral, the other one doesn't have the other, and they switch and you're good. So we talked about nutrients. We talked about the parasites. We did not talk about food sensitivities. Food sensitivities are rooted in trauma because your body looks at that food, it thinks it's a predator, And then every time you eat that apple or the banana and you're not in a state of rest and digest, now your body goes into an inflammatory response or reaction and and you don't feel good. And that mimics a mental health misdiagnosis.
That's powerful.
No, we're not even done.
Wow.
The other one is candida, which goes with the food sensitivities. And here's the last kicker. So if you're listening to this, put your seatbelt on. Okay.
Buckle up, folks.
Buckle up. More than half of us are missing or have a genetic variation where our brain doesn't send the neurotransmitters dopamine and serotonin, the happy hormone.
50%, did you say?
More than 50%. Okay.
That's frightening and sad.
I have a solution. It's super easy.
Let's hear it.
Bee pollen. I have it every day.
Bee pollen?
Bee pollen. Also beef. And that's why people who are having depression and go keto, like, oh, I got to do that. That's why. So I'm not a fan of a keto diet because I'm a fan of a balanced diet, but you got to do you. I tell people what everything does in my programs, and then you get to choose. No one knows your body better than you, because when I was getting healthy and I lost 100 pounds from that whole ordeal, when they put me on 8 drugs, I gained 100 pounds. When I
I don't even
lost,
know how you could function being on 50, more than 50 medications at a time.
right? So,
You could have,
what's the
seems
name
to
of your
me like there would
podcast?
have resilience, brilliance, baby.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
The body is
Because
resilient.
you would think, yeah, but you would think that having that many toxins entering there would be at least a drug-drug interaction. You could have died. It's truly remarkable that you're here, you're highly functioning, you're healthy, you've lost 100 pounds. That is resilience right there, for sure.
Thank you. Well, and the thing is, I'm no different. It's the programming that you get. And my book that I wrote, Emotional Healing, Toxic Free Living, Model New Behaviors, and Reset Old Belief Systems. First of all, I just want to point this out. She's standing on water like Peter, and she's in the clouds. Think out of the box, people. So I originally started writing this book for my brother who died. He had a brain tumor. My brother took me to get training as a 21-year-old with Landmark Education. And Landmark Education is not for everyone, but I was wise enough to take the stuff that I liked and the stuff that I didn't align with, I ignored and took the stuff that was good for me, which is how I live through life, by the way. Because I took and studied Landmark Education as a gift from my brother, Dr. Steven Suson, when I was disabled, I just knew I had a different option. And I knew that I could co-create with the universe anything I wanted. And had he not given me that gift of that training, I may have been living in an old belief system that I don't have a choice and I just have to die. But who dies at 50? That's crazy. I'm going to live to 120. How about you?
Wow, I mean, that's really powerful. And one of the questions I want to ask is going back to like your reactions in the food and the water and using them as medicine. So what kind of tests do you recommend for those that are suffering either physically or mentally?
Thank you for asking. I used to do a test. It was $1,200, and I did it for I want to say 3 or 4 years in a row. And it was a blood test. And it was really on the food sensitivities, whether or not it was a good methylator. I knew that majority of the people would not be able to afford that. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't have to afford it. I was able to get it at a discount. Yeah. So the last 2 years I've been studying, and I do a test. I use the hair and the saliva, and it tests for 13,600 items. And of the things that we've talked about today, those are all included. And it gives you an exact path using nutrition, red light, whether or not you need to see a chiropractor, whether or not you need to use Rife machines, what you need to release in your diet, all of that, and it's $325. And you
That's
get a
fantastic.
it is, but what's even better is that when you retest, it's only 1 and a quarter, and you every 8 weeks. I say that because it depends on the person that I'm working with. It depends on how severe it is. And we don't work with disease states.
For those people who have already been diagnosed in a state of disease, what do you recommend to them?
Come see me because look, 90% of your health concerns, and forgive me, and I want you to re-listen to this, is in your head. It's in your subconscious mind. Now, I want to tell you that when I fell and tore my rotator cuff, it's no surprise that they told me that the pain was all in my head and I was making it up. And I want to tell you, while they were incorrect about that situation, the truth of the matter is it is in my head. In other words, our subconscious mind is driving the show. So somehow my body thought, and I never like to use this word, but because I'm going to use it because it's relevant. My body back in 1997 thought it needed a break because I was launching the debit card program for the United States and internationally. I was super, super tired. I just wanted a break. I was supposed to go to Hawaii soon. And I'm like, I just need a break. Watch your words, people. Don't ever use that word because you'll get it. I would like to have
Yeah,
joy. I'd like to pause, joy, laughter, love. Choose that. Don't choose wanting to break.
that's interesting. That's really powerful because, there's so much that our subconscious has going on that most of us aren't aware of. And those who are more in tune are very much aware of those subconscious thoughts and the power of those subconscious thoughts.
I work on my subconscious mind every day, multiple times a day, because I know that unless I start changing things up in my subconscious mind, I'm going to get the results that I always had.
I did a quick search and it says 95% of our cognitive activity is subconscious.
Yes. Yeah.
That means we're only consciously aware 5% of the time.
Let me explain that to you. So that means the fact that you're breathing, that's part of your subconscious mind, that the blood is flowing, subconscious mind. The fact that when you go to the toilet, you don't have to think about it, it's part of your subconscious mind. So I want you to understand what they're really talking about. You know, that's your body being on autopilot. You don't have to consciously tell your lungs to work.
The autonomic systems are, yeah, I get that because I've had a lot of seizures as a result of my traumatic brain injury. And the seizures, they shut down all those non-essential activities that our body does so that the autonomic systems can function.
So, do you know what to use to release seizures?
No,
So this is for entertainment purposes only, binaural beats.
oh, yeah, I have that. Yeah. I have several binaural tracks that I listen to.
Okay, make sure they don't come off of a, platform like any social media platform, right? It has to be pure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
gonna become adulterated. And, it just works that way. I actually sell, a frequency compilation for $35 that does a brainwave correction, uses binaural beats, works with PTSD, all.
We all know, and I love that there's so much new study going on with brain and brain health and the neuroplasticity of the brain. My big brain injury was in 2017, and even in 2017, they were just starting to talk about the neuroplasticity, and since then, it's expanded. The research, what they've discovered, there's never a good time to have a brain injury. But if you're going to have a brain injury, now we know so much more. I had a head injury when I was 7 years old, just like you. That wasn't in our protocol. Get up, get up. Dad said, "Get up, don't tell your mom."
Wow.
So, the times have changed now. The athletes have a protocol. If there's any sign or they look like they were hit, they're taken out and they're given a review,
Mhm.
a certain protocol. That didn't exist when you and I had our first brain injuries. Well, of
So can I tell you something?
course.
Brain injury is not the end. And quite frankly, it's a gift because it breaks those patterns that stop you from actually being the best version of who you're supposed to be. So binaural beats, neuroplasticity, which binaural beats is a part of neuroplasticity.
It allows those neurons to rewire and find their connections.
hmm So I have multiple devices that does a reset on the neural network of the brain to bring it back down to baseline. The second thing I do is red light, and you can light up the back of the brain so to make sure that you have proper blood flow from the brain to the rest of the organ tissues and cells, which they use the spine to do that. And so if there's an interference, you're not going to heal. So the other thing, if you have a brain injury, see a chiropractor. Make sure that spine's aligned. If the spine is not aligned, the brain is not going to heal, nor is the rest of the body. The other thing that I have been trained to use is pulse electromagnetic frequencies. And PEMF mats are not made all the same, and neither are your lights, people. Okay. I have researched the globe for the best in class of everything, and it's also affordable. On my website, I have a list of trusted partners, and I highly recommend that if you're looking for trusted partners that can serve you, check out my list because they are the best in class. Go check it out. These people are saving lives. They are not greedy. They're here to serve, and they found a way to help you serve yourself because health does not start in a doctor's office. Health starts at home.
Right. Well, and one of my favorite hard to read books is The Body Keeps the Score. I love it, hate it. I wish there was a version that was less technical, less clinical, easier to read. And
No, I have a solution for that. So this is not my book. This is Yvette Rose, Metaphysical Anatomy. Okay. Your body is talking. Are you listening?
is it a friendlier approach, easier to digest, less like not everybody is a clinician and understands all the technicalities that in The Body Keeps the Score, because that's to me is like a very textbooky.
Mm, In my book, okay, I talk about the all clear protocol and it works with this book. So I'm going to give your listeners an easy way to handle what you're talking about. In the book, or you can buy the card itself. There's the protocol, which is you can download for free on my website. And it tells you a step by step process on how to clear trauma from your organs, your tissues, and your cells, from your biofield, from the past lives, from the entire lineage. It's free because God said make it free. Now, the pocket prayer card that comes with it is available to view on the website, or you can buy the pocket prayer card. So you look at the protocol, you're going to make an agreement with your guides. Going back to the earlier conversation, I'm a high D. And I said earlier that spiritually speaking, I like to do things quickly. So I make this agreement. I say, hey, here are the things when I say to my guides, here's the all clear protocol. The all clear protocol includes this list. Okay. And it's in the book and it's on my website for free. When I ask for you to do clear this trauma, I want you to clear all these things. I don't have to remember them all because that's just too much energy for me. Liver cancer. So she tells you the emotions that are driving liver cancer. So the condition is often related to ancestral trauma, related to a lack of food, poverty, or a lack of emotional needs being met. You may feel as though you were treated unfairly. Everyone else had it easy. But she's got pages and pages of this for every single thing. So what I do is I read whatever that issue is, and then I ask my guides to do the all clear protocol on that.
Perfect.
And so it's the cheapest, easiest way that I know to help humanity help themselves. Because you and I, no matter what we do, what we say, at the end of the day, your listeners need to start taking action to help themselves. We can't do it for them.
We are our own best advocates. That is for sure. The times
Mhm.
have changed and we need to be much more knowledgeable. We need to be much more in control and we need to be strong and use our voice when we don't like what somebody says. We have to, that isn't good enough. I don't believe that.
Mhm.
We really are the driver of our own health.
Thank you.
We can't sit back and be a passive participant in our own health.
What had you choose to be an active participant in your own health?
I didn't accept my condition when I was freshly injured. My personality flatlined. I had zero short term memory. I was confined to darkness, light. I had a vice grip squeezing my brain. Every day I was in so much intense pain. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk. And my neurologist said, yes, this is temporary. The brain is plastic. You can relearn everything. You can reconnect those neurons. We're going to help you. And I trusted that she knew what she was talking about. But then I got emotional support through the Brain Injury Hope Foundation, Joanne Cohen, and she was the first person that actually gave me hope because she was a multiple brain injury survivor herself. Between my care team and that Brain Injury Hope Foundation, I was able to come up with this mantra because I was a meditation and mindfulness practitioner before my brain
Wow.
injury.
Wow.
And I came up with this mantra, reclaim my life. And my life depended on me reclaiming my life. And I gave myself a full year of all those different modalities to work on rewiring my brain and learning how to walk, learning how to talk, speech therapy to help find the words I needed to use to communicate. I'm a communications major, communication studies major. I'm
Yeah.
a writer.
Yeah.
I thought, how in the world am I going to be able to support myself? So I devoted an entire year to this physical recovery. At the end of that year, I would decide what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Would I be on disability because I couldn't function? Would I be choosing a new career based on my new normal? Or would I be able to return to my marketing? Because I owned a marketing company. Would I be able to return to my marketing work? Would I be able to write copy again for Fortune 100 companies? Reclaim my life was exactly what I needed to do. And I did it. And today, every day, I reclaim my life. And I was meant to do this work in resilience as a result of everything that I've learned. And what you don't know, Jody, is I lost my longtime partner to
Mm.
alcohol addiction, withdrawal fueled suicide. And that was 10 weeks after I had hip surgery with a 1 year recovery period. And during my hip surgery, I lost my service dog. And then within weeks of Michael's death, our shared home flooded not once, but twice. So I had a lot of shit happening, big shit, like traumatic events, not drama. People say, oh, there's so much drama in your world. Well, no, I think there's a difference between drama and trauma, and we can talk about that in another episode. But I had
Agree.
all of these real life events that, can just beat you down. And every time I go through something, my mantra is reclaim my life. And after getting through the worst things, people were like, Jenny, you are so resilient. You are so resilient. I'm like, what other choice do I have? Because I'm not a person that's going to wallow in self pity or play that
Right.
victim card.
Well, you can wallow. Let me just say this. You can wallow in self-pity for 10 to 20 minutes. It's okay. You need to feel your feelings
Well, I think there's a difference
and then
between
give it to
wallowing in
God.
self pity and
Yeah.
emoting. I'm a firm believer in emoting,
So
but there's a
can you tell me the definition of emoting?
feeling those feelings.
Good job. Okay.
Feeling the feelings, allowing yourself to feel them, but then letting them go, not staying stuck in that feeling of woe is me, right? feel the sadness, feel the anger, feel the guilt, feel the pain, whatever emotion comes. But then you have to learn how to let go of that emotional charge that the emotion has and let it go. If we hang on to it, that's how we become bitter, resentful. Disease comes in, all of these negative things that can happen if we hang on to those negative emotions for far too long or adapt that. Instead of my mantra, reclaim my life, there are people who are like, I am this, I am a victim of this, I'm a victim of this, and therefore my life is this small.
Well, come on. You know what I used to say for 20 years? Not I have bipolar disorder.
I am.
I am bipolar.
Yeah, and for the so people who don't know that
Cancel.
power of I am statements, look it up. We don't have enough time to talk about I am
No.
statements, but
There's something
anytime we
very
say
important
I
though.
am, yeah. Go ahead.
My 2 birds are calling, and they really want to be introduced to your listeners. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
They also have 2 stories of resilience.
While Jody's getting her birds, I want to remind everybody I have a free live training every month on resilience. You can go to pages.resilience.brilliance.co/webinar. That's pages.resiliencebrilliance.co/webinar. And in that, you'll have one-on-one with me. You can ask me any questions that you have. I'll go over some real world neuroscience backed tools, techniques that you can use to help you build your resilience muscle, because resilience is a muscle and it will atrophy if we don't use it. Resilience is what keeps us going in the hardest times. Resilience is what puts pep in your step and song in your heart and sparkle in your eyes. And look, Jody's back with, who do we have visiting us now?
Well, this is Fagala, okay? And this is Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell could not fly, and I'm gonna back up to show you guys something. Go ahead, Tinkerbell.
That is great.
You know what we used?
What?
Neuroplasticity.
Excellent. How do
If
you
you
do neuroplasticity on a bird?
don't have time for that, she was poisoned, this little girl, and she's missing a couple of, nails because of it. I'm gonna tell you that I think the most important message that I can give to your listeners is that you have everything within you already to be the best version of who you're meant to be and who you agreed to come down here and be, okay? And he's humbly suggesting that you take time for you first. Always do you first. Every single day. You wake up in the morning, do you first. For me, do you first means I wake up, my feet don't hit the ground, and I go into prayer to ask God for my marching orders and to ask Him to fill me with love, to ask Him to rebuke, release anything in my physical, mental, spiritual body that doesn't align with Him. And I do that for these 2 girls as well, for Fagel and Tinkerbell. If you do you first, you fill your cup first, you can then pour, okay? And look, we are made to serve, so
Yep. Yeah, that's one of Stephen Covey's habits. 7 habits is sharpen the saw. And we have to, and it's also what you said about balance, right? We need to have balance in our lives. And if we aren't sharpening our saw, we are going to deplete and deplete and deplete. And again, that's where our disease and our health conditions that can sabotage us step in.
yeah, and I want to share a quick story about the award
Yes.
on this book, 'cause I was looking
Yep.
at my notes. So, for your listeners, the book I literally channeled this book. It's a channel by Jesus. And so, no surprise that in the first 90 days, it received an International Impact Award. I was shocked. And it went against all my program belief systems about being good enough. And I cried. And I cried and cried and cried. And we're going to talk about tears at the end of this conversation. So when I was in Arizona receiving my award, it was very interesting. So I'd be taking pictures, and then we had a few hours in between the luncheon and the gala dinner at night. I'd be crying in between. And you might ask why. It's because I had to step into the greatness and the power that Jesus gave me, that I already had in me, which meant I had to release the old version of me. And there's grief, people, when you release the old version of you. It is okay. Cry it out. And then take your tears, wipe your tears, and put them in your mouth. Because that is actually a solution to bring in balance. You get the exact hormones out of your tears and you can eat those tears.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I was taught by my TCM friend, traditional Chinese.
That is really neat. I've never even heard that before.
And it's in the book. And I encourage people to get the book, the workbook,
Where do you sell the book? Do you sell it on your
on my
website? Is it on
website.
Amazon? Okay,
I do sell it on Amazon. I would be grateful if you bought it from me, and I'll sign it for you if you buy
great.
it from me. And there's a journal as well, a gratitude journal, because you can manifest your entire life with gratitude, and a workbook, because I ask you questions in each chapter to reflect upon you. And I am not that assumptive to think that my life is supposed to be your life, but you can use my life to ask yourself the same questions and then find out what that means for you and define that.
Yeah. It's so true. We share these stories of resilience as a model for people to see other people go through hard. It's not just us personally, it's other people. That's why we share these stories. Before we go, I want to reiterate to everyone that Jody does have, it sounds like 1 or 2 free gifts on your website. Is
Oh, I
it
have tons
1?
of free stuff on my website.
Okay.
So I have free digital books. I have 25 different books there. Okay.
Excellent.
And to go to my blog for the all clear protocol or look under stuck energy. At any time somebody can't find something, my phone number is on that website. Text me. I'll send you what you need.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your time and your talents. And also, if you want to book a consult, there is a button on Jody's website. I'll have that in the show notes as well as up here on the screen. And I want to again thank you for being a guest on Resilience Brilliance. And for all of you, thank you for joining us today. Until next time, be real, be resilient, reclaim your life.
And
Ciao.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Likewise.